All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. we have a
Hey,
night. We've got a night ahead of
hello,
you
hello.
and ahead of us. Ben here. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, longtime colleague now. Man, we've been working together for a while. But Tom
Yeah,
Smith,
yeah.
who
It's been a while. It has been a while.
you haven't
Um,
aged though since I've known you. Met you about 2017. I'm
dude,
kidding.
like
I'm kidding. You look old
go
and
back to
tired.
some of the first. Yeah, I look old and tired. A very, very white beard. I mean, this beard is whitening at a breakneck
I know.
speed.
I know.
Anyway,
Gandalf.
must be all the amazing whiskey. Um, yeah,
Well, here we
dude, I
are,
haven't been
guys.
on in a while. It's nice to be back. Nice to be back.
Yeah, we are.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for having me. I mean, I don't know if I should think. I think this was your idea. Tom said, "You know what? Almost an end of year, we're feeling a little festive." You know, for anybody in the chat, you guys know Tom.
Yeah,
He turns it on sometimes, and he's like, "You know what? Let's find a good excuse to open a Vaults Collection whiskey, and not only any one, the one that we've all wanted to taste." Tom and I've been talking about this for a while, and then he said,
Jesus
"Let's do
Christ, man.
another one. Let's do
Like,
that winter cask." And so we are super stoked, if you couldn't tell. It's be a fun night, and thanks for joining us. So I want to do a quick little roll call, everybody. I just want to give a shout out. First of all, Mamuka, 1977, first in the chat. Mamuka, you've been on a roll, I think, this year. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Mamuka. Joe Combs the second is here. Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Joe. Jason Jones. We got Big Ed T. Roy, who says, "Cask strength greetings to all." I see what you did there, T. Roy. AB Scott, good evening. Good evening, Whiskey Franco and DC. Someone's just got the handle DC. That's cool. Who are these guys? Well, I'm wondering who you are, but it's good to have
I
you
don't know.
anyway. And
Yeah,
Super
I don't know.
D, Christine Daisy, good to see you, Christine and Bill Monty. The crew is
Just
here.
a
A lot of familiar faces.
just a couple of dudes who are sipping some whiskey on the interwebs, right?
Yeah. We are
I
both in
mean,
our
that's
elements. Yeah,
super unique. Nobody else is doing this, but
yeah.
good thing we have some pretty special, unique.
Yeah, we just a little word of caution. Tom is in the Wild West tonight. He's in an office all by himself, and apparently the office building sort of like dims the Wi-Fi signal, and so he don't think Tom is in any wilderness surroundings. He is a city boy through and through, and so if he cuts out here and there, it's just because of his office Wi-Fi. So we'll be patient for you tonight, Tom. Anyway, yeah, we got a big night, St. Andrew's Day celebration. Tom is, as I understand, the St. Andrew's expert here. So so enlighten us, Tom. What is it we're celebrating
I'm
tonight?
I am the expert in insofar as to mention that Saint Andrew is indeed the the guiding figure and protector of Bonnie, Scotland. So November 30th every year is a bank holiday, and I imagine quite a few people throw on their time and celebrate to a certain extent. I don't think it's anything like Burns Night. I mean, Burns Night is really the call to arms for everyone. But St. Andrews is certainly a very elevated holiday, I'd say, and thus we should be opening some elevated whiskey and
Yeah.
just have a good time. And quite frankly, I was just kind of missing being on one of these things, and
Yeah.
I got a little selfish, and I said, hey, where you and me are going to drink some good stuff.
Yeah.
I almost spilled the distillery beans there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We've been
yeah.
spilling
So
the
St.
beans.
Andrew's Day.
We've been spilling a lot of beans this year. I feel like the last few months we've just been
Well,
whiskey's been flowing. We've been spilling some beans,
it's
but
been a year, right? I
we
mean,
won't. Yeah.
can we do a quick year in review? So we did one really epic Burns Night celebration in New York City. I'm really hoping to take that on the road, maybe in 2025. And then we had Robin Lang come over in
Oh yeah.
March,
Yeah.
and he did a wonderful kind of fill-in role for Charlie McLean and our tasting panel experience. Then, of course, we had a festival month. That was amazing. April, we released our 30th anniversary bowling, celebrating 30 years in the U.S. And then May was festivals. June, our 40th anniversary from Scotland, 40 years of the Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. And God, we had Dave Broom over the summer on the West Coast. Then we had Pip Hills in September. In a few different places to meet some members and create the gathering, and the 40th anniversary. And now, like, it's like you blink, and here we are staring at the barrel of December 1st, and like the last month of the year. I mean, it's been a really quick year, but it's been pretty awesome, man. You know, a lot going on, a lot of fun whiskeys that we've released, a lot of 40th anniversary, other exclusive casks. And we still have a pretty robust month of December. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
I love when Tom uses the word robust, because I know that's code for fucking amazing whiskey every time. And so, yeah. So then with that said, we got a robust night tonight. Look, it's no surprise we're gonna be opening up 2 whiskeys. Well, actually, I should say I've opened the bottles and I've sent some samples to Tom. And no surprise what they are. One of them is going to be, we'll start with our reverse order from how it's listed in the caption below, but we'll start off with our current US exclusive cask. That is part of our seasonal selection series, where every year we choose 4 different exclusive casks, bring them to the US, and each one, Tom and I, we pick based on seasonal enjoyment and the flavor. We try to match the flavor profiles with the spirit itself. Excuse me, the flavor profiles with the season, rather. So we'll do that one. And then, of course, we have a bucket list whiskey. Frankly, I didn't really think I'd get to try from for iconic distillery. Tom and I I was thinking about this just now, actually. We had a chance
we had a nice
I forgot about
we had a nice visit there together, didn't we? Yeah.
We did do that. It was a blur because, you know, a lot of whiskey, but
a debaucherous 24 hours in Campbelltown.
Yeah. Look, our
crazy.
intention is not to just drink amazing whiskey and have you watch us and then just feel envy. Pour yourself a dram. Also, both these bottles are still available, and as I said, I've linked them below. That's the extent of my QVC spiel here. We're just gonna enjoy some whiskey. Pour a dram. Usual comment to start off. I just like to do a little roll call. What's everyone having a glass tonight? What is it? Thursday night now, close enough to the weekend. No excuse, pour a dram, and just drop a comment as we get in this first one. What's in the glass tonight? Any thoughts before we embark on this? We're so used to doing these outturn tastings where we taste 6 whiskeys. It's like a marathon on YouTube. We just got 2 tonight, 2 special ones. So, Any last words before we succumb to the spirits?
From me? No, man. I'm ready to rock. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Logan,
what are you guys drinking? Oh, Cody, by the way, are you going to be able to drink on the job? How are they there at the University of Hawaii? Are they lenient? Maybe you can
little
sneak
things they got going on. Logan says it's been a hot minute since I've been on here. How we doing today, guys? Yeah, I think that's a theme, man. It's been a hot minute for all of us. And let's see. AB Scott says 112.94. That's a code for.
It's I think that's a stranger in these lands. Is that right? Yeah, a stranger in these lands, I believe.
I think I have that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is an awesome whiskey.
Yeah. Brad Wood says 93.201 tonight. That's nice.
93.201.
Super D says Buna Haven. And Mamuka's got to throw us off with the cognac tonight. That's okay. No one's perfect. You can enjoy that cognac. We're going to get into some Scotch whiskey. So let's start up. We're going to start with this one here. We'll just pull it out. 68.98 Sipping Sunshine. This is our current it says right here. Seasonal Selection Winter 2023 USA exclusive cask. I talked about that briefly. I won't repeat myself, but basically, pick 4 a year. This is a whiskey that we've chosen based on, I think, the winter conditions and what we typically go after. So,
yeah, you're always a champion of sherry during the winter time, Ben. I know you're always you tend to enjoy a lot more sherried whiskey. I mean, I guess you're kind of enjoying sherried whiskey all year long, but with this chill in the air, is there a chill in Nashville, Tennessee?
No, it was funny.
It's pretty chilly in New York now. It's like now.
No, it's like 60 degrees.
So.
You're right. I'm from Chicago. I think some of you guys know that, but in Chicago in the wintertime, man, it's sherry cask matured whiskey when it's freezing. It's just, for me, it always hit the spot. Yeah. I live in Tennessee now. I've been here for a few years. We just have like mild and hot, so it doesn't hit the same. But that doesn't mean I've decreased my sherry cask whiskey enjoyment.
You can just turn up the AC real high,
Yeah, actually. All right,
but yeah, and also it's noteworthy to mention that the communication for this lottery entry went out 2 days ago, so it's a little earlier than we normally would do. So this also serves as a bit of a reminder for people who haven't entered the lottery yet. There are over 200 bottles of this available, so there's a pretty good chance you'll get one if you enter. And I think at some point Ben will throw up a link to the lottery entry form. If you
it's down below.
You guys want to do that?
Check the link below. Yeah. And while we
diving in here, man.
Yeah, let's dive in. I'm actually going to post up I just thought about this. I'll post up a little description of the whiskey, the details while we're doing this.
Yeah.
15 years.
That has got a big sherryish nose, doesn't it?
Well, we were talking about this. So for specs, and apologies, guys, I'm gonna put up the info here. But so this was matured, first of all, 11 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead, and then transferred to a first fill American oak ex Pedro Jimenez sherry hogshead. So a lot of words there. But we were just commenting before we started the live stream. 4-year secondary maturation off of 11 is a pretty lengthy period of time. Normally, when you see like a finished whiskey, you see a year or two in a sherry cask. This is pretty lengthy. This is in the deep, rich, and dried fruits flavor profile.
Isn't a typical finish with a lot of companies 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year max? Perhaps other folks are lengthening that a bit more. We're typically a year to usually 2 years, but now, as you mentioned, we're seeing quite a bit more secondary casks. Be interesting to get Ewan's thoughts on that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. We're seeing longer and longer maturation. Am I going in and out?
No, I am just about to. Boom. There we go.
Okay.
I want to get this info. I just have the thing scrolling down right there. It says first fill PX sherry hogshead, but as we mentioned, it's actually double matured. That's the final cask. It was 11 years in the ex-bourbon wood. So the question, when I see this on paper, and if I'm a member, we are members, but trying to choose out which whiskey I want to order, on paper, that's like 4 years in the sherry is a lot of time. And I'm generally attracted to that just because I like a balanced whiskey. I don't like, you said I like sherry whiskey. I've kind of gone back and forth over the years. Now I really prefer something that's really well balanced. If something's too cask driven, a lot of people love that, and I totally respect that. It's like not my personal preference, and we're just here to share our personal opinions. So I'm really attracted to this idea, just at least on paper, that wow, it's got 4 years, pretty lengthy period of time. It's not that 6 to 12 month finish where you just throw it in the second cask just to get a little bit of inject a little bit of a variety or depth. So let's see if it holds up to my expectation. But on paper, that appeals to me.
Clearly, from the color on here, that's a really active cask, because you're not getting anywhere near that kind of color from ex-bourbon.
So
oh man,
really this is a kind of a lame descriptor, but woody, a little bit of wood smoke. And PX sherry, going back to having expectations, it's really not a touch of that. Well, it's not as sticky sweet as I would expect. Usually with PX sherry mature whiskeys, they're very, very sweet. And if you mature whiskey in that type of cask too long, I mean, maybe that's the desired outcome, but you tend to get a very, very heavy, sweet profile. Just on the nose, I'm not picking up much of that at all.
I am actually getting a good amount of almost kind of red fruit compote, like a cherry compote type characteristic. There are some very, very jammy red fruits for me.
Yeah.
And a really, really nice display of spices, of like baking spices.
Yeah.
I get a touch of the I get the wood. I don't get the wood smoke personally. But there's zero element of any kind of sulfur for me.
Yeah.
I don't really get much sulfur at all.
I mean, it's very, very rich, very heavy.
Slight touch on the finish. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very heavy aroma. And you're right, it's jammy. And again, going back to,
it's a heavy-handed nose for sure.
Yeah,
heavy-handed, I'd say. Yeah.
You think someone in my position or our position should know by now not to expect anything other than uniqueness from a single cask. This is not what I expected. It's much drier, and usually, like with Oloroso, I don't know if you guys. I'm curious. Here's a question, simple question for everybody in the chat. If you like sherry matured whiskey, which I think if you're watching this, you probably do. If you had to pick one, which would it be? Oloroso sherry or PX Pedro Jimenez sherry? Do you have a preference? I find that people tend to sometimes, and so PX is usually not my thing. Man, this is like really kind of straddles the lines. It's sort of dry and nutty. It's got some of that, but the I think when you said stewed fruits or the cherry, I think the compote was your word.
Cherry compote.
That's spot on. It's really, really heavy.
Yeah.
It's not overly sticky sweet. But that's the question for real quick for chat. You want to do it? I should do a poll, but drop a comment. PX or Oloroso? Tom, what's your answer if you had to pick one at the end of your life?
I mean, if you're making me choose,
yes.
I mean, I got to go Oloroso, man. If you're making me choose, yeah. Because to me, there's just more. There's more bandwidth for flavor possibilities with Oloroso, because Oloroso sherry can be rather dry, even though it has a very sweet nose. If you're actually sipping that sherry, you can there could be a very like richly sweet nose, but then almost bone dry on the palate. So it can be fermented rather. You can also go pretty sweet with Oloroso as well. So if a producer so wishes, they can match that sweet palate with the sweet nose. So the fact that you have that versatility kind of makes me definitely makes me lean toward Oloroso. But that said, we are at least I'm having my eyes open to different things because of the producers that the society is working with. In particular, it's about bodegas, bodega Spinola. It's not, honestly, I'm forgetting.
Bodega Espanola.
Is it just Bodega Espanola? I think there's more to it. I thought there was more to it.
I'm just airing with confidence, and I'm like,
okay,
70%.
Well, anyway, we've worked with them. It's documented in some of the casks, and this is a family-owned distillery. And I'm going to look this family-owned bodega, and I'm going to look this up because I need to get this information right. They are one of the last family-owned bodegas, and they're farming 100% organically grown Pedro Jimenez. And they're not just making sherry, but they're also making these sweet wines, unfortified sweet wines with Pedro Jimenez. And some of those are labeled as Coseca wine casks for our secondary maturations. And when you see that Coseca wine barrique or Coseca wine hogshead, that's an unfortified dessert wine from the Pedro Jimenez grape.
Yeah.
So you're seeing more versatility with Pedro Jimenez, at least at this Bodega Spinola. But I'd love to see more with PX. The Oloroso is there for sure. It's pretty blatant how much leeway you have for different flavor combinations.
Jimenez Spagnola. Bodegas Jimenez Spagnola.
Jimenez Spagnola. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I did pretend to know what I was talking about there for a moment, but clearly do not. Yeah, listen, I'm looking at responses. My question was Oloroso PX. I'm seeing a lot of kind of both ways, and I think some people, I want to pull up some comments here. Sean Spieth said, interesting, if it's just a sherry finished or solely matured malt, I might lean towards Oloroso, but if it's a peated finish in sherry, I lean toward PX for sure. So very, very and AB Scott also says Oloroso normally accepts if it's with peat and PX. And Elhan's here. I could see Elhan. Elhan says this similarly. Hey, it's really not about the sherry style. It's about how it's presented. Is it peated or young or old? Yeah, a lot of different comments.
Well, also
here.
Activity of the barrel, right? Like a refill sherry cask or Oloroso or PX. Refill, low activity over a long amount of time. It's going to give you a very, very different expression.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But Elhan, he's making us choose. Ben is making us choose.
Just because
Oloroso or PX.
We're in the era of.
I'd love to see more dry sherry expressions. We don't really get our hands on that. Right, if we do, I don't. They haven't been released yet, but some Amontillado would be really interesting, especially with coastal whiskeys that are already maybe a little bit salty, a little bit saline and maritime oriented.
Yeah, not
to get that Amontillado kind of.
Not a lot of distilleries have played around. Amontillado is my. If I had to pick one style of sherry to just enjoy it, I love Amontillado sherry. Like that's what I like to buy at Total Wine, just if I can. Amontillado. But yeah, I don't see a lot of distilleries use that. Maybe it's it's kind of a funky or sort of coastal. Anyway, let's get to the palate of this one. We've got 2 whiskeys of the night, and
This is big, man. This is big, rich.
Okay.
It's 55.4. Is that the ABV?
55.4.
I think it's punching a bit above that weight class there. For 55. I mean, it's got some boldness to it.
Oh, that is hot.
Yeah.
Oh, really, really succulent. Oh, okay. Granted, first whiskey of the night.
Yeah, this is my first whiskey of all day. So, yeah,
really, really intense.
It's good stuff, right?
Yeah. Really, really rich. Okay, first of all, I can't get. Our reactions, I think, say it all. Really, really strong. High rush of white peppercorn. The alcohol presence is dominant right now. I haven't given much time for the whiskey to breathe or anything, so I'm going to add a little bit of water for sure. But just my first impression, the palate sort of follows the form of the aromas. This is jammy fruits, stewed berries, and then those sort of winter spices, the classics, the clove, nutmeg. Not a ton of cinnamon, I don't get a lot of that, but it's more earthy.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I get more cinnamon stick than that kind of.
Oh yeah.
That typical cinnamon flavor you might think of. I mentioned that the nose was rather heavy-handed. This is big and rich, but it has balance. It certainly has balance. And now that I've taken that first sip, and kind of got my legs under me. The second sip certainly presents a lot of different flavors jumping out at you from entry to finish.
Yeah, okay, this is a tough question to answer because we obviously know what the whiskey is. We know the specs, but we know that's been 11 years in an ex bourbon wood before it was transferred to this first fill PX. Do you think you would, if it were blind, you'd be able to detect that this was like a double matured whiskey, or would you think this was a full term sherry cask? I know it's tough, but I'm I'm asking everybody in chat just to give them a better idea of like.
Well, I would use my powers of deduction, for lack of a better term, looking at the fact that it's first fill, and I'd be willing to bet that there are not many distilleries out there that are going to put a whiskey in a first fill, any kind of sherry barrel for that long.
Yeah.
I would assume, at least these days. I mean, there might be a couple of exceptions to that, but I'd say that the odds are greatly in my favor that using that rationale that it's first fill, that it is a finish and it's not full term. Now, when you get to second fill, refill, that kind of invites a bit more speculation of full term maturation or not.
It's a very assertive. Like it's an intent. I've added some water, so I've sort of muted the intensity of the alcohol, but the flavor itself. Oh man, just from I think my experience, very I think indicative of the sort of the house style of this distillery 68 that we see a bit of.
Yeah,
and very much this is we're totally generalizing here, but very much a Highland whiskey as you would stereotype it to be, a bit more earthy, rustic, in contrast to a sherry cask matured Speyside whiskey, which would have I think more stronger and prominent fruity undertones. It's definitely much more earthy for sure.
I've added the water and the earthier elements have come out.
Mm-hmm.
The wood pops for sure.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bit more tannin coming through, but there is also a beautiful texture, that really nice mouthfeel, that I certainly get with the 68s for sure. But that I would say, again, we're using really broad strokes here, because we're not really that much into regionality these days in the industry. But that texture is something that tends to be a common thread running through a lot of Highland malts. One thing I'm not getting in spades that I usually do from this distillery is that nuttiness. They go out of their way to create a distillate that's quite nutty. I get little touches of that, and I tend to pick this up in whiskey a lot, are the brittles, the peanut brittle, maybe another kind of hazelnut brittle or something like that. So a bit more confection driven than just a raw almond or something like that.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
But I'm not getting a whole lot of that. Little accents, and maybe the PX cask kind of overwhelmed that with the fruit richness, with the lots of spices all over the place. And I feel like we could probably pick out a lot of not just baking spices, but the peppercorn spices you were talking about as well.
Okay,
it's real nice.
So here's the question: the elephant in the room. Well, maybe it's just an elephant in my room. This one's called Sippin' Sunshine.
Sipping Sunshine,
which I thought was kind of funny. I don't know if you can see because I got this camera on like eye tracking focus, but on this it's a celebratory label.
Can you do the full thing like Scott does? Can you put it up real close?
No, because my camera does this like it focuses on my eyes only wherever I go.
Because Ben just sent me these whopping samples, so that's all I get.
Anyway, I can describe it to you. It's like a Mai Tai. There's a picture of Sipping Sunshine. There's like a picture of a Mai Tai, which is kind of funny because this is a pretty sophisticated it's a sherry cask single malt, I guess, with some palm trees and then like a gingerbread dude and an orange and a chili pepper. Anyway,
shall I read the tasting note?
What I'm trying to get at is, I'm trying to make that's a good place to start, or to proceed, because I'm like, it's the name. I'm trying to tie the name with the tasting experience, which is a pretty like wintry, hearty flavor.
But it also brings up a point, like one of your points that you make often is that whiskey is all about moments, right? Like the moment in which you're experiencing that whiskey.
Yes.
I'm sitting here in 30-degree New York City, having just walked to the office on the East River, like with the wind, biting, and that's like, I definitely have that kind of Christmassy mind, that Christmassy frame of mind, and that wintry frame of mind. But
that's a good point. And I'm sitting at a 35-degree angle in Tennessee, like just with a bright LED light in my face, and
the tasting panel, they probably tasted this sample over the late spring, early summer, sitting at 9 o'clock in the morning at the vaults, and that was their kind of context, so it's interesting. Anyway, let me read this
Yeah,
tasting note.
and I agree. If you don't mind reading them, and in the spirit of St. Andrew's Day, maybe you can do it in a Scottish accent.
I don't really have that for you, Ben.
Everybody in chat, can we veto Tom here? Can we put a little peer pressure?
just you'd think by now I would have developed some sort of accent, but no. I just haven't. I apologize.
Really? After all these years working for this company, I'm sure you've seen How to Train Your Dragon a couple of times. You can't pull it out.
I've never seen How to Train Your Dragon, but I don't know what to tell you, man.
Wow.
Like every time I try to do it, it comes out Irish. So it's like it's no bueno. It's no good. Right. Anyway, so here's the tasting note. The nose embodied the vibrant blackberry and blackcurrant fruit of a heavily oaked red wine, before cinder toffee, cola, and herbal ash. Oh, there's your wood smoke. Settled on a sandy beach. The palate, however, was sweet and spicy, with an amalgamation of milk chocolate, rum and raisin fudge, and gingerbread biscuits, while Brazil nuts joined cocoa nibs and orange. Adding water brought about a notable change as strawberry syrup mixed into pink lemonade and candied grapefruit combined with creme caramel in a Mediterranean orchard. Flavors now embraced orange barley sweets. I've never had a barley sweet myself. I'll take their word for it. Fruit cordial and fragrant Turkish delight, while the finish delved into dry fruit skins of peaches, plums, and grapes.
Dude, it's fun, listening to you read those off.
Yeah. What was it's like, yes, of course I get that Turkish delight and those dried peach skins.
Yeah, I'm like, it's rich, it's heavy. How to Train Your Dragon. But shout out to Christine Davey, who knows exactly what I'm talking about. Toothless. I can't believe we're paid. Yeah. Cody says, I put this up earlier, but new hard mode tasting challenge. What mood was the tasting panel when they made the notes? That is advanced.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
well,
and was it the first whiskey of the morning? Was it 9 a.m. or was it 11:30? Because I imagine the 11:30 tasting note is probably a lot more far out than the one right after their coffees.
Yeah, Christine says whiskey moments are definitely a thing. No, I'm big on the moments. Tom knows this. If I can name every whiskey, if I can name 100 society whiskeys, 90 of them would be a moment of something. I've named a couple moments before, for sure. Man, this is like that typical moment I find myself on our YouTube channel where I say this and I'm like, oh, but I just sound biased. This is really good. This is a really good whiskey. It's delicious.
It's gaining a lot of momentum. So I blew through my first
I like pour. That it's gaining momentum. I like that.
Yeah, no, because I've just poured another neat pour, and wow, now that my face is acclimated to this whiskey, like there's a lot coming through.
First we're like, oh, it's so strong, and now you're like, this is momentum, gaining momentum.
I mean, listen, there's still a lot of strength there, but
Well, have you added any water?
It's really gorgeous. Well, I added water and then I finished it, and now I'm on my next neat pour. We only have 2 whiskeys, man. I got to get my blood alcohol up. You know what I'm saying?
This is funny. Do you say? I'm looking at a moment of salinity. I named that one too.
That was some of Ben's best work.
That was that old Isla, 17, 18-year-olds. Yeah, that I remember.
I always wanted to. I don't.
Yeah. On the moment, if you see a moment, there's a good chance I named it.
Tom, it's 28 in upstate New York. What does that mean? Mamuka, 1977.
28 degrees? I don't know.
Oh, it's 28, like 28 degrees. Oh, okay.
No, not like distillery code.
Because I'm like, wow, Route 28. I know Route 28 very well. Where are you?
St. Andrew's Day. Let's do this. Let's
going back. Sorry, very quickly. Let me just. I wanted to say this, and then I got distracted. But I always wanted. Can I? You think I could share with the group the names wanted to give an Isla whiskey? Maybe I shouldn't. No, it might be a little inappropriate.
Okay.
Let's move on. What were you going to say?
I don't know. It threw me for a loop. I was going to say let's go to the next whiskey because I've been as good as this is.
Yeah, we should.
It's like, come on, everybody come
really good.
For?
I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to this one.
Yeah. So to wrap this one up, I think we've described this in a pretty roundabout way. link below if you want to enter the lottery. This is still going down. We do have a number of entries so far. I think it's going until Monday, so it'll be open till Monday.
It's open till Monday. Yeah.
No guarantees. We do these for a lot of our USA exclusive casks, especially the seasonal selection. There's usually a lot of interest for these. I think safe to say, kind of a no-brainer. Really good one for winter. I think the flavor profile, the 4 years, the secondary term in the sherry cask for 4 years after 11 in the bourbon wood, really, really nice balance, but still deep, rich, and dried fruits flavor profile, which when we categorize a whiskey in that flavor profile, you tend to get a very heavy, rich, cask-driven spirit. This is, I think, more on the balanced side, but unmistakably, if you were to close your eyes and say this is a sherry matured whiskey. Any other thoughts to close? I know it was gaining momentum, but how is it finishing?
I'm going to go back to it. I'm
Okay.
now taking a pause. And so Cody, Mamuka, I have always wanted to tell a whiskey, rock out with you out, but and that's Doc with a D, like a
Tom. Yeah, you were saying that when you had one of those Wi-Fi blips at the moment you were saying the name. So
are you serious?
Yeah,
really?
The timing is impeccable. Yeah, so
is
say
that
it again.
like maybe that's a sign? Maybe
No. You were censored by your own Wi-Fi network.
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
No. So no. I will say this: we were Tom. This is the segue to the next whiskey. I'm gonna take this banner off. We got to move on here. The next whiskey, Tom and I, about over 4 years ago, man. Time's flying by. It's crazy, but Tom and I took a trip down to Campbelltown. We were in Edinburgh for like our annual, all the every international chapter head goes in, and we have like a conference. And so Tom and I were there talking about all the business stuff, and we decided, what, let's drive out to Campbelltown from Edinburgh, and we convinced. It was just so funny, dude. I'm not gonna make this whole inside story, but I remember we were sitting at dinner one night at the Vault. We had dinner at the Vaults with Pip. And we're sitting there and we're like, we're talking about Campbelltown. And I look over the table at Ewan. So Ewan Campbell, who's now our head of whiskey creation, he's handling the whiskey. We're like, Ewan, do you have any tips? And he tells us like he's never been to Campbelltown. We're like, are you kidding me? You're the guy looking after all the whiskey. You live here. You've never been. So we convinced him. The three of us drove down.
Really interesting how many Scots who live in Edinburgh have not been to the islands. It's wild, man.
Well, listen, not to get off on a tangent. I remember once going to Kentucky, meeting with a bunch of distillers, and I was blown away how many of them don't really know much about Scotch whiskey. Anyway, we're just uber whiskey nerds here, and we try to experience everything. But we were driving to Campbelltown. That's a segue because this next whiskey comes from this esteemed region. And Tom was just volunteering the whiskey names that he would name a whiskey. If he had the chance to name a whiskey, this is what he would name. Ewan was cracking up because he's like, Tom, that's not how that works. You taste
rock out with your dock out, baby.
Yeah, he wants to name it. He's like, come on, oily and coastal, rock out with your dock out. It's like you're sitting on the dock and it's just you rock it. Anyway, but apparently that's not how it works. You have to.
And then the cancel culture came, and that title went in the toilet. So it's okay.
I don't think ever really pitched it. I think, yeah. All right, let's move on. That was awkward, but which is pretty much on brand for us. So next one. Yes,
perfect.
This is great. Look, this is not a whiskey. I think we tend to. We have a lot of perks in this job. A lot of whiskey perks. Tom, even yourself, you look after the whiskey. You're responsible for it. But this is a pretty special one. It does come in a box, which we've already concluded the camera can't focus on. But if you haven't seen one of these, this is from our Vaults collection. And it's what can I say? It's wood, just like Tom's doc. I don't know where we're going with this. Anyway, this is Cask.
You're getting awkward. Let's go. Reel it in.
Tom, as Gaga said, I was born this way. This is Cask 27114. It'll be all right in the night. Distilled the 23rd of April, 1993. Matured for 30 years. Wow. Also double matured. This was first in an ex-bourbon hogshead and then transferred to did I just knock it up? To a first fill ex-PX hogshead. It's kind of the theme of the night. this bourbon to PX. Yeah, I don't know. I find that interesting, but anyway, okay. I'm gonna pour it. I've pulled out a special.
Intentional. It wasn't intentional, you know.
No. I'm pulling out a special glass. This is technically our SMWS Spirits class. I brought this in a carry-on from
nice.
Edinburgh. It was my second attempt. The first attempt, I broke one in transit, but I love this glass. And it is our official single cask spirits class, but I love it for any whiskey. So, thoughts? You said obviously you haven't tasted these. I will say I did taste this briefly when I was filling your sample. I was pretty excited, but I also wasn't in a state of mind or place to really enjoy it as I am now. So I poured on unnecessarily small dram. I don't know why I did that, because that was
no way, man.
About it. Gonna make the most of this.
I will say that the color of this whiskey and the previous whiskey are exactly the same. Like, the colors are exactly the same, and that's where the similarities end. Jesus Christ, that nose is ridiculous, man.
Well, I want to pull. I kind of forget sometimes. I got a little carried away. I forget. Yeah. Maybe it's good that I lose my words. So this was matured for 25 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead, and then transferred to first fill Spanish oak PX for the final 5. The last one we had, I mean, like you said, the comparisons sort of end very quickly, but there was a American oak PX. This is a Spanish oak PX for 5 years. Type of 25. Wow.
It's a long time. And then we had earlier this year rather, we had the analytical allure that was 7 years in a Madeira hogshead, which 7 years is the longest secondary maturation I know of for any of our whiskeys. So, yeah, they're really, really welcoming. Damn, it's just.
Campbelltown. We talking about Campbelltown. We had a chance to go there, go to this distillery, visit a couple of distilleries. I think we consumed our fair share of whiskey. We made the most of it. But Campbelltown whiskey has become so popular, and the experience of whiskey, I think, of this age is super rare. Obviously, I think the price of the bottle reflects both the cost of the acquisition, the rarity. It's like, it's crazy how in demand the spirit is. But the funkiness, I say a lot of comments about the Campbelltown funk. Gregory Cloyd said the 30-year-old Campbelltown funk. I'm always curious to know if that's lost over time. And just nosing this, it's absolutely not. I think the sherry cask is heavy. It's got this sort of old leather armchair aroma. Really a lot of depth. I'm probably not gonna do it justice, man. This is I'm selfishly wanting to not talk and just taste this whiskey, and
it's the combination of the richness and the earthiness and just that other like kind of mystical part that is very, very difficult to put into words.
It's definitely, just nosing it, a whiskey drinker's whiskey. I think there's a reason why Campbelltown isn't held. And listen, right now, as of today, there are 3 distilleries operating in the region, smallest region of Scotland in terms of distillery count. But there is a reason the region today is held in such high esteem. And I think,
and this distillery in particular.
Yeah, because I think if I were just getting into the hobby a bit and I were to come across this, it might be a little too weird for me. I would say, so to include my thought, the funkiness is there. It's not nearly as prominent as it might be maybe without the sherry cask, or maybe at a younger age, it's certainly mellowed out. It's a much, much more sophisticated, I think, aroma compared to the funky Campbelltown whiskeys that I usually enjoy. But it's still there. So I think it's an acquired taste. I haven't even tasted it yet. I'm just smelling the damn thing.
This is something you don't want to rush. I mean, I suppose we should. We spent 40 minutes on the first whiskey, so
Yeah, but we also spent over $2,000. So I'm gonna say,
yeah, that's true. That's a good point. It's a good point.
Come on,
Yeah.
there's no. Yeah. The whiskey was made over the course of 30 years. And I think as long as and everyone gets sick of listening to us talk about it, we can still carry on.
Are you picking up the petrichor? Are you picking up the petrichor?
I was wondering if you would ask that of me. That is Tom's favorite aroma, which is petrichor.
Oh, nice.
Which
and
is
so
what is this? The aroma of a new fallen rain,
sprinkled on the edges. Oh, it's lovely.
Yeah.
That is.
We are real champions. I can tell. Look at
lovely stuff, man. That is really good. I mean, it's a really good nose. I haven't tasted it yet.
Brad Woods asks, why, based on exchange rate, is this 300 more than it's across the pond? But, man, importation, the cost of importing cask strength spirits to the U.S. Or anything,
pretty good.
Versa.
Pretty good strain on international logistics chain, at least for us. And it's a necessary cost, unfortunately.
Buying,
we're doing our best to keep those costs down, but it's difficult with something like this.
It's not really. I mean, it's a comparison, but different type of good. But you can buy a hunk of incredible mozzarella in Italy for a couple of euros. It'll probably be the best mozzarella cheese you ever had. Yeah. And you spend probably 4 or 5 times that to anyway. Again, mozzarella cheese versus a 30-year-old Springer is different, but whatever.
I'd probably pair more of like a Comté with it, But
you're going,
or a nice blue cheese, a really kind of funky blue.
I'm
cheese.
just talking about local, goods produced in anyway. I'm gonna taste this fine little number. I'm curious if you got the. I'm trying to move past the fact that this is so good. Here I am drinking this amazing whiskey, but let's to really get into it a little bit. Oh, okay. 3 stages of that little roller coaster there. The first stage, very, very lush, very velvety, very, very more cask driven. The sherry notes were really prominent. Immediately became industrial, much more medicinal. Got a little bit of brine, iodine. I don't know if you got this. So it started for me, front end of the palate, very, very lush. Oh, and then just becomes a little bit colder, more coastal, wild, very unnatural, as in a good way, as you would want from a whiskey of the region. And then a bit tannic. No, I think I got to go back. It's hard to taste and talk at the same time. A 30-year-old distiller 27 would be the bucket list for me, but with Christmas coming up, my wife would come in. Yes, please, no murder in the household for the name of whiskey. I'll pour this 10-year-old.
Yeah, it's hard.
Please enjoy.
It's really hard to pull out every little nook and cranny that comes across, because there's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there, but as far as and such, that silkiness really hits you and moves quickly to the sides of the palate. There is a touch of tannin there, yes, but it's more structure than anything else. It's not gripping, and I don't know if it's because I just mentioned it, but I'm getting like a big old hit of like gorgonzola cheese in the mid palate, and that fades very quickly. But there's some kind of like Stilton-y kind of funk going on there. The finish, I mean, even as we're talking, like there's so much still happening. Is very mineral driven, kind of maritime coastal type feelings.
53.7% ABV is a really high strength to be retained over 30 years. And I have no real desire to dilute this thing. And which is, I mean, I will.
Neither do I.
You know what I mean? Like it's shocking. And I know the first one before it wasn't much stronger, but like we thought that was really intense. This is much, much more mellow, subdued. I also think I'll speak for myself here, of course, but tasting a whiskey of this rarity and value, though we are totally spoiled, and I certainly am, I get to do that. It still weighs on you psychologically. Like it's a really special opportunity that I think I'm personally grateful for. So it's hard sometimes to really subtract the magnitude of the tasting from the actual tasting experience. So, which is to say, I got to go back and do it again because I was a little mesmerized the first time and trying to talk at the same time. But yeah, so I don't know if you feel that way. If you've become immune to these moments.
Yeah, moments. It's a lovely moment. I feel bad that I'm like so introverted right now. While I'm supposed to be talking about it.
Listen, what is everybody out talking about getting divorced? No, don't get divorced. Don't buy a bottle if you're gonna get divorced. It's
don't divorce. It's not worth it.
We're both fortunate to taste this. I wish we could share.
Swing by New York City, or actually, Nashville has a lot more than I do. I just have this, and that'll probably be gone by the weekend.
I'm gonna send out some samples of the team, and
yeah.
So I can't. I would be rude to not. So, yeah. So
we should dilute this, right?
Yeah, I'm
part of the process. It's part of the process.
I'm going to taste this a second time without hearing myself talk because I feel like I do a lot of that on these streams.
I'll chat a little bit.
But it's just the depth of it all. It's a really, really well. I would wonder if this were left to mature another year or two, it might be too much. I think it's really achieved. Equilibrium has been achieved, I would say, after this 5 years in the sherry cask.
Yeah, this is one of these whiskeys where it occurs to me that, man, Ewan knows his shit. Like he knows what's going on. Like he's really got his finger on the pulse of these things because he's his lens is so panned back most of the time, and the fact that he gets it so right so consistently, it's very impressive. But yeah, here it is. Damn fine whiskey. Power and precision just coming together, and dang.
I like that the spirit has retained its distillery character through both 3 decades and an additional maturation in Spanish oak PX. Which, we were out at the Cadenhead shop. We bought a bunch of whiskeys. Just, I had a great time. Bought some of those the cage bottlings, and I opened some up, and a lot of them I think if I tasted blind, I would never guess that was from that distillery. I mean, listen, no two casks are alike, but I do like that if you're a fan of the distillery, the region, this is through and through. I think in a blind tasting, you wouldn't guess this was born from elsewhere. I think I like that, but yet it is so different. And I'm no expert on 30-year whiskeys from Campbelltown by any means. You know, I love the whiskey of the region, but I just have limited experience because it's just hard to come by. But I like that it's so different that you know where it came from just by tasting it. It's unmistakable. It's not a peated whiskey from Mila, certainly not. But it's so well balanced between the sherry and the bourbon and all the notes, and it has the classical notes you would want of a whiskey of this age. Like I talk about like worn leather. I get a lot of leather when you hit about 3 to 4 decades. Man, it's a special place. Again,
you get the tertiary notes, and they're at the front. They're kind of leading the charge, along with some very, very ripe kind of sherry notes. So you have that lovely juxtaposition throughout.
Where does this
really complex?
Where does this rank? Okay, I'm going to call you out here, and I would encourage you to just answer just totally honestly. Where does this rank on your list of whiskeys you've tasted this year?
Well,
I think you had a hell of a year. Got some text from
there's a gentleman on this stream named Greg Cloyd who was to really gorgeous, probably the eye time, and I would this Springbank. Right behind the Black 74 Lafroig. I'd put it behind there for the whiskeys I've tried this year. These are not society bottlings that I'm talking about here. As far as society bottlings that I've tried this year, dang, I mean, if this isn't number one, I mean, it's probably number two. I'm trying to think of something that was more complex and just, I'm an oily and coastal guy, so this is up my alley. Anyway, it's just my wheelhouse.
It's okay. When you said that, I agree. What I just hadn't thought of, it's right on the boundary of oily and coastal and deep, rich and dried fruits. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like it exists in such a unique place. I have not experienced, because I was thinking of some older oil and coastals we have. They're not this. They don't have this sort of degree of sherry presence, which I would say are the two most popular flavor profiles are probably deep, rich and dried fruits and oil and coastal among society members here in the U.S. It's like really straddles the line between the two.
Well, I think these days the oily and coastal has probably gotten more popular because it's those expressions are between. We're actually seeing sherried expressions really ramp up in quantity, in proliferation, because of the program that the society has put in place, which is fantastic for sherry lovers. Seeing a lot more of that stuff coming through. JT's asking, is it similar to the funk found in Distillery 93? I'd say that the 93, when it gets funky, it's more like kind of a grubby type thing, whereas this is a real almost kind of barnyardy funk. The 93s hit a bit closer to, say, 42, peated 42 for me, and the 27s are just kind of doing their own thing.
It's just really hard not to be completely ruined after this. I mean, I'm just being human about it. It's really, really special. I can't think of a whiskey on the shelf behind me of hundreds of bottles that I would really rather reach for. There's no, I don't hold back in my opinions, especially on this channel for everybody. But the festival season was amazing this year. I think I was pretty open about that in my opinions. That Luscious Velvet we had, the Distillery 64 release blew me away. But it's like with all whiskeys, I had zero expectations, and that caught me off guard, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for days. I hadn't thought about a whiskey like that, like lying in my bed for a long time. and I was going crazy over that whiskey. You know, it comes in a very fancy wooden box. You know what it is. On paper, it's 30 years old. So expectations are high. But let's be honest,
right.
not every whiskey delivers. And a lot of whiskeys on the market, I'm not going to name brands or anything, but a lot of whiskeys on the shelf right now, you can spend thousands of dollars for. And I've been fortunate to taste some. I'm like, I don't know that I really would take that over a 10-year-old something. You know what I mean? So it's great when the spirit delivers. And man, this is really something. So
I'm glad we got to share it, man.
Yeah, great.
You, me, and a bunch of awesome members who are taking time to tune in.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage everybody, if you can swing it, to pick up a bottle. I think for me, it's the kind of whiskey you'd have. I mean, obviously, I think the price part of it too. You'd have around for a long time. You pour it in a very special occasion, and I almost think that, and this is my, again, personal opinion here, to not savor it over a long period of time. Listen, you're welcome to do whatever you want with the whiskey. Drink it all at night if you really want to. That's kind of dangerous, but I think it deserves, like, you know, it's made over 30 years. It deserves to be enjoyed, you know. I think over a period of time. Prove me wrong, but that's my take on whiskeys like this. So anyway,
sounds good.
Closing thought. This is the plan stream where we normally I like to end these streams by getting creative and blending the whiskeys together and then tasting them, and I'm not doing that tonight. That's for sure. No, I guess I'm with that. Definitely not. I'm not in the blending mood tonight. This is every drop is being savored. So
this is really, really beautiful stuff. Really, really beautiful whiskey. It's
Cody said 27. This is like such a insider.
27 is the new 24.
Joke, but like,
I mean, it's
isn't it true though?
Certain, I was about 27. Certain things going on in the market with 27 right now. It's pretty wild. It's absolutely blown up.
That's why these hidden. I look at some of these distilleries. I'm like 66. I'm like, look at these spirits that we have. I'm like, these are just amazing. They're still amazing value, and it's just a matter of time. If more people get into whiskey as they are, like, it's just a matter of time before people realize. I felt that way about Glendronach, you know, and like Brown-Forman Black Glendronach, and you know, everyone's going after Macallan, and you know, you can get like Glendronach single casks from early 90s, and you know, for really reasonably priced, not that long ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7, and you know, it's just a matter of time before people realize, oh, they're also making really good sherry cask mature whiskey. So a lot of that going on. Nothing's untapped anymore. There's very little. So, but
stock up on Ardent American while you can.
That's how I feel. That's going to be
it's a long range play, but they'll get there.
Yeah, that's whiskey. It's a long way. Anyway, enjoy what you enjoy, and cheers, everyone. Happy.
And share it.
Yeah.
For those of you who can afford this whiskey, please open it and share it with your friends, and enjoy that moment, because dang, we only get so many moments, right? And if life is nothing else, it is about collecting moments, right? So
I love when Tom gets philosophical. It's like my favorite Tom. I hate to end the stream right now, but like, we have lives to return to. Tom is in his office. I'm sure he wants to go home. I'm just gonna go crawl downstairs. All right. Good night, all. Thanks for joining in. Good to see you, Tom. This was fun. Good to be back on the channel.
I'll be back. To see you. Great to see you, Ben, and great to be back on. I mean, you know, I'd like to do it again sometime if you let me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, all. See ya.
Take care, everyone.